Hello, I'm just waiting for people to turn up. Should probably turn on that back light. It's pretty dark. Just a sec. There we go. That's a bit better. Okay, just waiting for everyone to turn up. Hello. Sorry, it's just in my own head there. While we're waiting for everyone to turn up, I'd love to know where you're from. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. So where are you from? So we've got Aaron, Caroline, Naomi, Taylor. So where are you from? Fall has just hit here. Say it yesterday or today, I think is the first day I noticed it. Yeah, it's getting cooler. I don't mind fall. I used to just live for summer. I don't mind as much anymore. Quite happy for colder weather. Okay, so where are you from? I'm just waiting for everyone to turn up. Petoskey, Michigan. Would it be Petoskey or Petoskey? Michigan. Never heard of that before. Okay, Michigan on YouTube. I made it to the live in the beginning. Hi, Tabitha. Yeah, I just got on here. I wasn't going to do a live tonight, but I've just had such a busy day. I'm just dying to relax. I find lives really relaxing. Albany, New York. Welcome, Emily. Flint, Michigan. Flint, I've actually heard of that. Flint, Michigan. I'm up here in Vancouver, Canada. There are two Vancouvers. One is in the state of Washington. It's a lot smaller, I think. I don't think I've ever been there. Petoskey. Oh, Petoskey. Okay. Petoskey. Whenever I'm working with people who have kids with names that I can't pronounce, I have to type it out phonetically because I have clients all over the world. So some of the names are just beyond me. Kentucky. Who's from Kentucky? That's Natalie. Hello. And Joan from Pinole, California. Is it Pinole or Pinole? And Amelia from Oklahoma. Zachary from Is it Peterborough or Petersboro, Ontario, Canada? Lee from Bar Harbor, Maine. And Kelly from Australia. What part of Australia? I lived in Sydney and then Brisbane. I was there for about 20 years. So I'm Australian too. Anyway, okay, so let's get going with the live. Yeah, just a sec here. Okay, yeah, let's get going. My name is Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, it's BratBusters.com. You can see my free behavior board if you sign up for my newsletter, or you can look into my courses. I have 2 boot camp courses, one for toddlers, one for older kids. You can look into coaching. I'm sorry, I have a huge wait list right now, but I will get to it eventually. And then our podcast is called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. We're quite a few weeks ahead in filming, but we just had massive giggles yesterday. And I keep telling my daughter, leave that stuff in because we put so many, we've done like over 100 podcasts now. And but yeah, it's mother and daughter, we work together. So you can imagine some of the stuff that gets said behind the scenes. We just have a blast doing it. So, okay. Now, so we have Christine from Vermont. So Shoshana, I remember that, Shoshana. I like that name. Chicago, Illinois. And Zara from upstate New York. Okay. Tabitha, got to go play soon. I find your son's technique of saying, I'll wait, works when she gets going over a couple of minutes, which is rarely. Yeah, my son has this technique with his 20-month-old daughter. And it's kind of similar what I do. Like if she starts to have a tantrum, she doesn't really have them much, but they're lucky so far. But if she does, he just says, I'll wait. And then she just stops and she does what he says. So, but he just says, I'll wait. In other words, I'm not going to feed that. So that's working. I don't teach that because I've never done that. So I don't teach what I've never done. But yeah, it's the same idea. You ignore tantrums. You just let them have it out. It's up to them, right? So that's what he's saying. He's saying that's up to you. Chicago, Illinois, Shoshana. I've already read that, haven't I? Okay, so Cairns from North Queensland. Oh, Cairns, far North Queensland. Yeah, I never made it up that far. I made it up to Bundaberg. That's as far as I made it up because we had family up there. But yeah, never made it up to Cairns. Some people pronounce it Cairns, but it's actually pronounced Cairns in Northern Australia. Love the podcast. Thanks for your support. We have a blast doing it. We really do. Houston, Texas. Hi, Wendy. California, USA. Hi, Amanda. Okay. So thanks to your son, but basically what you're trying to act like you're waiting anyway. So sometimes if my acting isn't great, I will just say that. Yeah, good. Yeah, I'll wait. So yeah, just say when they're having a tantrum, you can say that. I don't teach it because I've never done it, but that's what my son does. And it works really well with his daughter. Okay. Sorry, I just got a text from my daughter-in-law. Okay. Nashville, Tennessee. I'm going to make it down there one day. Okay, Zara said, I appreciate using the screen/electronics blackout. That's the 24-hour media blackout. When you use the behavior board, it's a mini course. It'll explain how you do that. It's free on my website. Anyway, there's always 2 consequences for the kids. So there's a rule and a consequence for every member of the family, 3 years old and over. And you always start with a positive action consequence. So if they won't do that, it's like just do a chore. If they won't do that, then you resort to the negative deprivation, which would be the media blackout. So you take something away. You want them to control everything up until the media blackout. What I mean by that is they can control whether or not they break the rule. Then they can control whether or not they do the first consequence. But after that, you take control. And you say, okay, so now I'm going to take this away from you. You take away something that they really enjoy, that they use every single day. It's usually screens. I get lots of families who don't use screens, especially with young children. So we have to come up with other ideas. But yeah, you take something away that they play with every single day that they will miss if they don't have it for a day. Okay, how can I get this is Cat Frog 79. How do I get my almost 3-year-old son from hitting and scratching other kids? He does it as soon as he's next to kids. You put down no hurting other people. Put it on the behavior board. And whenever he does, when you get home, you say, okay, well, if you're out somewhere, you say, okay, you just hurt someone. We're going to discuss that when we get home. You're investing in tomorrow. It's not going to work in the first day. So, and then when you get home, or if you're already home, you just you say, okay, let's go to the board. And you say, okay, now your rule was no hurting other people. And you scratched someone. So here's your consequence, and then lay it down. See how I'm talking? I couldn't be more calm. It's like a business transaction. If you talk fast, you sound angry, which I just want to say, I do talk fast whenever I'm coaching or doing it live. I'm not angry when I'm doing it, but I'm trying to get as much information as possible. But when you're disciplining kids, I talk very slow if I'm disciplining kids. I slow it down. I talk low and I talk slow. Makes you look calm. It has a psychological effect on you too. It calms you down a bit more, or it's more likely to calm you down than if you talk like loud and fast. Got it. Thank you. You're very welcome. San Clemente, California. San Clemente, California. I haven't been down to California in a very long time. Probably 20 years. I'll start traveling more. I think I traveled a lot when I was young. I kind of lost interest at this age, but I'll get more into it. Julie from Vancouver Island, just a neighbor. Welcome. I'm in Vancouver, Canada. From Lebanon, Kansas. I didn't know there was a Lebanon, Kansas. Marion, welcome. Okay. It gets the message across to my 10-year-old daughter. It gets the message across. What's it? Did you put something previously that I missed? I appreciate you. Oh, right. Okay. The blackout. Yeah, good. Sometimes kids will say, well, I don't care. That's usually bravado. They're just saying it because they're trying to look cool. So, or trying to pretend that you can't get to them. So yeah, you know if that bothers them or not. Okay. This is Shoshana. My kids seem to rule my house in every way. How do I tell them it's going to change and we will do things my way now as I start to change our behavior? Don't tell them, okay, don't use words. Just start using the behavior board and follow through with it. Don't tell them things will change. You can say, look, we got a new behavior board, but don't do the big discussions around this stuff. That's the therapy session talk. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to change everything. We're going to do that. Yeah, don't hold back on that. You can just say, here, look, we got a new board because we want to be better parents. Okay. Saying that things are going to change doesn't make them change. It's the actions, the consistency, and follow through that makes the difference. Fort Wayne, Indiana. Hi, Alyssa or Alicia. I'm not sure which. Okay. This is Sarah. When I ignore, I like this one. It comes up quite often. When I ignore tantrums, not on my phone, my daughter tries to come and hug me while I'm full-blown tantrum because she wants help cooling down. Do I still continue to ignore or do I hug her? Do not ignore her. Do not hug her. That's not a love hug. She wants to pull you into that energy. She wants to pull you into the tantrum. Okay. So she can grab your leg, but you're still just kind of ignoring her. Okay. You might peel her off of you. That is not a love hug. That is validate my tantrum. Come into that tantrum with me. She's inviting you in. She's trying to drag you into the tantrum. That's not love that she needs right then. You need to ignore it. So she'll just pull away from that eventually. But yeah, it's not a love hug. You don't need to hug. They'll sometimes go, I want to hug while they're having a tantrum. No. Because they know that you probably won't say no to that. That's why they ask for it. But yeah, you just let them, they can grab your leg, but just look like you're still busy or washing the dishes or you're just waiting for the tantrum to stop. Also, don't give them a hug in the tantrum hangover. That's when they finished having the tantrum. They're still in it sort of, but they're coming out of it. Don't hug them then, because if you hug them and console them then, it makes it look like you felt bad about everything and that they should feel sorry for themselves. No, they shouldn't. That's just anger based, okay? It's not, a tantrum isn't based on big feelings. It's based on big emotions. It's based on a loss of emotional control, not getting their own way. That's why you want to ignore it, okay? If they're having a tantrum because they're overtired or they're sick, you don't ignore them, obviously. You meet their needs. You get them off to bed. You look after them if they're sick. You know what I'm saying. This is when you've said no to something that they wanted and they just didn't get. That's something like that, those kind of tantrums. Okay, this is Velours Floral Designs. The biggest results I've seen implementing your methods has been the peace I'm able to bring to our home. Went from feeling completely out of control to having confidence in what needs to be done. Good for you. You've done the work. I just give people advice here, but you're the ones who do the work. So yeah, pat yourself on the back. Good for you. Good for you. If you can't, and this is, I would say in coaching, the biggest challenge is the parents' emotions. And they often say to me, how do I not get angry? How do I do that? And I say, well, that's unfortunately up to you. Like I can tell you what to do and what you need to do, but you've got to do it. It's like I could give, like if you go to a diet center, they can tell you how to eat properly, but they can't feed you. You know what I mean? They're not hand feeding you. That is your challenge. It's following the diet plan, following the parenting plan. In coaching, I'm there for support. And it's funny because I say the same things on repeat often throughout the sessions. If I have people over a period of months, I might have them for 30, 50 sessions. They'll keep rehiring me just because they want the support. And then it's really funny because sometimes I'll say something like this. I'll say, if kids feel good, you always want kids to feel good. If they feel good, they do good. If they feel bad, they do bad. So that's one saying. It was quite a while ago now, but I said that to one parent in session, I don't know, session 50 or something. And they said, oh my God, I get it now. It was that one thing. Well, I would have said that many, many times throughout the months, but you're not always ready to hear it, right? So that's why I have to repeat so many things. And then so I just got a little bug. And they process it differently as we go along. So you've got to be ready to hear this before you're going to implement it. But it sinks in. What do they say? You have to hear something 7 times before you'll implement it. I believe that. Makes sense to me. I do 24. This is Amelia. I do 24-hour media blackout also. I am fond of it as structure. Yeah, you don't want to go there, but that's their choice. Remember, they chose all that. You didn't choose that. They did. So don't feel bad about this. This is kindness. Discipline is kindness. You're teaching them how to be accountable. So when they know they're good, when they know you're going to make them accountable for what they've chosen to do, then they're less likely to make a poor choice in the future, right? Like I rarely ever discipline my kids, and they discipline me a lot more than I discipline them, because I would say it's usually around cooking. I'd promise to make something and then I'd forget because I hate cooking. So I got in trouble because I promised I'd make something and I didn't do it. So But yeah, it's just the whole idea is that the discipline stops. It's not like you want to continue doing this forever. It just ends because there's mutual respect. Once you're cemented as a leader and you give respect to get it, once you're cemented as that leader role, they don't act out. Okay. Everything gets easy, but you got to work to get there. You got to earn that. Okay. This is Emily on YouTube. I'll just read it out as she wrote it. When a tantrum is because he didn't want to do what he was told, like wash his hands after going to the bathroom. Okay. I still need him to do that thing. So when do I follow up with the connection? With the connection. So you mean after you've dealt with it. Okay. So you say, okay, time to wash your hands. I don't know how old he is though. I actually wouldn't have read that if I realized there was no age. Let's say he's 3. Okay. So you say, okay, let's wash your hands. He says no. Sorry, I'm just looking at, so he has a 10. Okay. So he says no. You wash his hands anyway. If you can't get his hands under the sink, then just use a wet rag, face cloth or whatever to wash his hands. Then he has a tantrum. As soon as he's done, you say, oh, do you want to go read a book? You got to ignore the crazy, which is the tantrum, and then reward the calm afterwards. Otherwise, it doesn't work. What they're going to learn is if you don't do the connection after the tantrum, they're going to learn, I get no attention during a tantrum. I get no attention when I stop doing a tantrum. I may as well keep having tantrums. Whereas they'll start to connect the dots that when I stop having a tantrum, that's when I get attention. And they really do want your attention. They rarely ever tantrum alone. They do it for it's a show. It's drama. Okay. This is Kira. I think it's Kira, not Kara. Kira Lanting on YouTube. When I go to yell sometimes, I will catch myself and start singing instead. I've got I know someone else who does that. Like I sing the words I was going to yell. Is this confusing? It ends up being funny instead of mean. I don't mind that. Listen, anything that can calm you down. What's wrong with singing? Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think that's funny. I've heard that before. I've heard someone. I don't think it was you. I think it was one of my clients. Oh, and by the way, and I rarely say this because it's not necessarily that I have a client that's turned up to alive, but if I do, I'll never say hi to you because I don't want to identify a client, right? So I'm not saying there is a client in this live, but if that ever happens. Okay, and you said turning 5. Okay, the answer's the same. The answer's the same. Okay, I hate answering this question, but I'm going to anyway because I hate my answer, but it's my answer. This is Taylor Burns. My 3-year-old is horribly mean to our dogs. I can't get him to stop hurting them. It's to the point that the dogs are snapping at him. They are normally good dogs who would never bite. Can you blame them? Rehome the dogs if you can't keep them safe and unharmed. Find a temporary home maybe, or rehome them permanently. You know, I always had pets with my kids. If they had harmed my pets and I couldn't control them, I would rehome. I would literally adopt my pets out. There's no way I would allow them to be hurt in my home. Anyway, that's my answer. But you can put down on the behavior board, and you got to watch him like a hawk if he's hurting them. Don't leave him alone with the pets. And put down on the behavior board, if you want to keep the dogs, put down on the behavior board, no hurting the dogs. And every time he does, there's a consequence. But yeah, sorry about that, but I'm an animal lover. I don't like to see them get hurt. Okay, this is RJ from Calgary. Oh, another Canadian. We have found your videos super helpful with our 2-year-old son and dealing with tantrums and bad behavior. Okay, it wasn't a question. Well, thanks for your support. I always say I give the advice, but you do the work. So pat yourself on the back. Good for you. Our home, this is Tony Cameron. Oh, okay, thanks. I'm not just going to read it when people say nice things to you. I'm looking for questions, but thanks. I appreciate that. Okay. Any advice with a 2.5-year-old throwing tantrums in the car? Well, they're buckled in. They're safe. Just let them go. Just ignore it. Yeah. There could be some extenuating circumstances, but I'm just going to assume it's a normal tantrum. He's safe. He's buckled in. Just ignore it. Keep driving. And if you've got a passenger in the car, don't get into a conversation with that person. I think that's rude. They're still going through something. So if they're going through something, you just ignore them, but you don't get into a conversation. That you want them to know that you know they're having a tantrum, but you're waiting it out. Look like you're waiting it out. So you're just driving along. You might want to look back in the rearview mirror if they can see you. Just sort of the odd time, but don't do anything. Like just look back. You want them to know that you know they're having a tantrum and you're just waiting it out. As soon as they stop, you say, oh, do you want to sing a song? If they start screaming again, ignore them again. Sorry, time's running out here. I got to get going. So I'm going to move over to Instagram. What I do whenever I do a live is I'm on YouTube the whole time, which is where I save all of my lives. It's also where we save our podcasts. So that everything kind of ends up on YouTube. And what was I going to say about that? And then I jump from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok whenever I'm doing a live, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to jump over to Instagram. I go from my smallest platform up to my biggest, which is TikTok. So anyway, if you want to join me over on Instagram, I'll be going there now. Otherwise, check out my website, BratBusters.com. You can get my free behavior board when you join my newsletter. You can look into my boot camp courses. I have one for toddlers, one for older kids. You can sign up on the intake form for coaching. I'm really sorry, I have a huge wait list, but I should get to you in the next couple of months or so, hopefully. If you want to work with me one-on-one, but I got lots of other free stuff out there, so you might not need coaching. Or you can look into the courses, or you can listen to our podcast. It's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. It's on all the platforms. My daughter and I work together and we do it together, the podcast. She kind of runs the show. She's in charge of all the marketing and all the planning. And so, yeah, we have a lot of fun. We're best friends and we have a lot of fun. Anyway, so you can check that out. And I'm hopping over to Instagram now. It's BratBusters Parenting over there also. Happy parenting. Sorry, YouTube, I'm just pushing buttons here. Oh, they've changed something. What? What do I do? I don't even know what to do. What? I don't know how to do a live anymore. Well, they've changed it. Oh, for goodness sake. What the heck? Okay, there we go. It might be that. Nope. Why would they do that? Well, I might not be able to. Maybe it's up there. Yeah, it is. Oh, why would they change that? Darn it. It was hard to find. Usually the live button's really obvious, but it was in a pull down section. Switched over from Facebook. Oh, hi, Amelia. Yeah, I love YouTube. That's YouTube isn't social media. We're growing on there, but we haven't put much energy into YouTube. It's where we slap everything, but we're focused on social media. Or my daughter, she does all that. And but YouTube's growing, and I love YouTube. I watch a lot of it. Too much. I don't want to admit how much, but I must admit, I've been on TikTok. That's where my biggest following is. I went on TikTok, but I never watched it. Well, about 6 months ago, I started watching TikTok. That's dangerous. So I literally will sometimes put a timer on so I don't get lost in it. Anyway, thanks for joining me here on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube, which is where I film all my lives. And then I hop from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok while I'm doing the live. Anyway, thanks for joining me. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, it's BratBusters.com. You can see my free behavior board if you sign up for my newsletter. You can look into my courses. I have 2 boot camp courses, one for toddlers, one for older kids. You can look into coaching if you want to work with me. I unfortunately have a really big wait list right now, but I will get through it eventually. And but if you're an existing client, some clients go on that wait list. No, you don't. If you're existing, like most clients keep rehiring me. So if you're an existing client and you're on here now, you don't have to go on the wait list if you want to rehire me. You go directly email me. So, because you get first priority. Anyway, and then you can look into the podcast. It's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. It's on all the platforms, and we save it on YouTube if you want to watch us do it. My daughter and I film ourselves. So, yesterday, we got massive giggles. My God, she said, I'm usually the one who says stupid stuff. And my God, she did something really dumb. And it was really funny. Probably come out in a couple of months, but it was really funny. It's usually me. I'm the goofball in the family. I'm the one who messes up all the time. She doesn't usually. She's more cautious, whereas I have no filter. But yeah, it was really good. Okay. Oh, your girl's not feeling good. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, that's good. YouTube is great until it freezes. Yeah, YouTube's been freezing during lives lately, but I think the last one wasn't bad. I think it froze near the end, and then I was ending it anyway. Okay, so welcome to the live Instagram. So I'm going to read out, this is cute. This is Courtney, I guess you are, OX Courtney. I'm a school bus driver, and my 8-year-old boy is so misbehaved on the bus. I'm at a loss because what am I supposed to do while I'm driving? I've tried taking things away, but he doesn't even care. Yeah, put it on the behavior board and say, and you can't just say, don't act out. It's such a broad term, but on the bus, I would say, don't misbehave on the bus. And then if he does, there's a consequence when you get home, okay? So he'll eventually learn, hopefully. But if it's that bad, I would almost, because if he's misbehaving on the bus, I don't know if it's a safety issue too. If it's really bad, I might go straight to 24-hour media blackout. So sometimes it's very rare that I do that, but if it's a safety issue, he's kind of coming up and talking to you and you're driving or something like that. I don't know what he's doing, but yeah, don't do the first consequence. You can go straight to the big one if you want. How do we help my 8-year-old son understand we have to parent his 10-year-old autistic brother differently? He thinks it's unfair at times. It is unfair, okay? Now, whenever I have clients who have a child who has special needs, or some children are really ill, and and the worst happens, it's horrible. And the thing is, even when children understand it, it still is hard on them because you're asking for a lot of empathy and understanding from an 8-year-old. They're very self-absorbed, which is normal for a young child. But it's too big of an ask. So even if they understand it, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy on them. So you want them to understand it, but I would try and make sort of special attention times with him too. Like you've got an autistic child, obviously they're going to demand more of your attention. That's completely natural. But try and have something special that you do with the 8-year-old, apart from the autistic child, the other one, okay? Something special. It could just be a daily ritual where the two of you play cards or something for 10 minutes. Something like that. Try to make him feel special too, because they understand that it's interesting because it's always an awkward position I'm in here because I want to say this is what you do, but you do have to give more attention to the special needs child, but it still hurts the other kids. It just does. Even if they understand it and they have compassion, they're often very helpful too. And as they get older, they're often helping out with the special needs child or the sick child or whatever. But it still takes a lot away from their upbringing. It can't be helped. I guess where I'm going with this is it can't always be helped. Okay. But they often grow up with more compassion. Kids who've been through difficult stuff, they grow up with a different level of compassion for other people. But it's a bit of a rougher childhood in some ways for them too. They go through it too. So yeah, that's why I feel kind of frustrated by my answer because it's just they're going to suffer a little bit for sure. But try and have a special daily ritual. It can only be 10 minutes even. That might be enough. Oh, good for you. This is Hope_Unknown on YouTube. When I started doing instant consequences for bad behavior, I'm assuming they're 2, or they could be consequences on the behavior board. So when you said instant, I was thinking consistent corrective actions right in the moment, but you might be on the behavior board. So when you were giving instant consequences for bad behavior, it was so hard for my children. They were literally having meltdowns. But 2 weeks later, they maybe get a chore once, sometimes not even every day. So things are looking up is what you're saying. So it works. I just give the advice. You're the ones who do it. So good for you. This stuff does work. It's just, it doesn't work right away. Like yelling is a very instant solve. And like yelling can work really quickly, but you don't want to do it because it'll backfire down the road. That's short-term gain for long-term pain. I teach short-term pain for long-term gain. So I want you to go through this rough stuff, okay? I want you to go through the tantrums. I want you to not give in. I want you to not resort to yelling, which may work in the short term, but you don't want to do that because it's going to backfire down the road. So everything I do, we're investing in tomorrow. And you've got to earn their respect. You got to work for it. Don't just expect it. You may not be sort of qualified to get it. You got to build yourself up. You got to earn their respect, okay? So you got to work for it. 12 and 10. Okay. Yeah, it's just because you said instant consequences. For some reason, I was thinking toddler. But yeah, they put it together. They start to realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm accountable for what I do. That's all we're teaching them there. And you're on there too. If you're not messing up on that board, like what I mean by that is you put down your role. Make sure you mess up sometimes so they see you being accountable. And also they see that it's not about perfection here. It's okay to mess up. You just want to make sure that you're accountable for it. No one's perfect, right? And that's a lot of parents don't want to show their vulnerability or their mistakes. Huge, huge mistake if you do that. Because you want to show them that you are vulnerable, you are human, you do make mistakes, and that's okay. But you're going to be accountable for them. You're going to make up for your mistakes, right? Because they're watching you. They're not listening to you as much as they're watching you. I remember years and years ago, I'm tooting my own horn here, about maybe 30, 40 years ago, I was really spouting this. I said, kids aren't listening to you, they're watching you. And I used to say for that first 7 years especially, they're not listening at all. They are, but it's not where they're learning. So there was some big study done for 50 years. It just came out a couple of years ago. And this big study proved that kids are forming their personalities and they're learning not through observation, not through listening. It's all watching in the first 7 years. It's that 7 years that because their language is more physical. Their language is like they're more physical. They were babies and toddlers. They're not talking as well as maybe they're acting. They're better at expressing themselves through actions as they get a little bit older. So by 7, most of their language has been actions, not words. So that's why it's so important to follow through with actions and all the discussions about bad behavior, the mini therapy sessions discussing why they should and shouldn't do something. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's not for them. It's for you. Okay, good for you. Hope unknown. I still was messing up. We played a lot of checkers. Perfect. I love that. And don't the kids love it when you mess up and you get in trouble? Right? That's love. You show them this love, Hey, I messed up. I've told this story a million times, but I just love this story. It's I just remember this one really well. It happened a lot. I was always in trouble with my kids. And they weren't. They were hardly ever in trouble. It was always me. So I remember once they were 8 and 3. My son was 8. My daughter was 3. And they said, Mom, can you please make muffins tonight? And I hate cooking. And I make everything from scratch because I'm a health food nut. But, I hate cooking. Anyway, so I said, sure, I'll make muffins tonight. Of course, I forgot. The next day they said, Mom, you forgot to make muffins. I said, oh, darn it. Sorry. I promise I'll make muffins tonight. Soon as I said that, they looked at each other and smiled. And I knew why they did that. And I said, I promise. And my son went, mm-hmm. So the next morning they get up and they come in the kitchen. And this is my son's face. And this was my daughter. She's 3. She's just loving this. So he says to me, comes in the kitchen, he goes, Mom, remember last night you promised to make muffins? I don't see no muffins. And I went, oh, darn it. I said, what do you want? And he says, we talked. Here's my daughter. She's loving this. So he says, we talked about it. We decided we'd like to go to the water slide park after school today. So I said, fine, I'll bring our suits. So you see, I was in trouble all the time, but it was funny. Like we had fun. So, and they loved it. It was like a theater. They'd come in. It was a big show, It was fun. Yeah, you want to show that you're human. Plus, what's the harm in that? We ended up all going to the water slide park after school. So it was perfect, right? But then I did end up making muffins too. Did I mention I hate cooking? God, I hate it. I love cleaning though. Cooking makes a mess. Cleaning doesn't. Because I love cleaning. Sorry, I'm scrolling ahead to make sure you're still here when I answer your question. Okay. That's a good question here. I like that it comes up quite often, actually. 4-year-old talks fine around the house, but when teachers or neighbors, etc., say hi or bye to him, he won't respond. How to teach him basic social greetings. That'll come with time. I wouldn't force that. If you say, okay, say bye-bye, and he won't say it, just say, oh, well, kids, I would just go like that. I wouldn't worry about it. Not yet. I wouldn't worry about it yet. And if he's ignored for that behavior, like you just shrug it off, he's more likely to start saying hi and bye. He wants to be included. If you make a big deal out of it, it's sort of like a power trip for him. Don't let him have that power. Okay, just say, oh, well, kids, he's not singing about it. That's okay. Anyway, see you later. Bye. So in other words, exclude him from that, and he'll more likely want to get in on it. That just takes time. He's only 4. He's still really little. And I never let anyone in on these lives. I only did it once years ago. I used to do these lives every day. One of my very first lives, someone big had shared my live. It's never happened since, but I had like 26,000 people in a live, and I was brand new at doing lives. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I let someone come in on the live and not realizing, and they started trying to sell their stuff on my live. And I didn't know how to get rid of them because I was new. So I've never, ever let anyone in ever since, ever. Because I'm not here to sell you someone's wares. I'm here to answer questions, right? It was funny. But anyway, there you go. Not saying you would do that, but that scarred me for life. Okay. Dr. Farheen Akhtar. Sorry, I'm terrible at names. The child, okay, just a sec. Certain behaviors have a fixed punishment. Okay, so I don't know if you're giving advice here, but I'm going to read it all out. Certain behaviors have a fixed punishment, as in the behavior board, but sometimes if a 3-year-old child tries to do something wrong, is it good to say, if you for this, I will give you this punishment, follow? I don't understand. The child stops at that point is this a good way of correcting, or will child think that if I only have a consequence, he will stop and up? Okay, I don't do the threats. I let them commit the crime and then I come in afterwards. I never try and control a child. I want them to learn to control themselves. So I never, I let them commit the crime. And at 3, they know right from wrong. So I let them do it first, unless it's something awful, obviously. But I don't tend to threaten or say, if you do that, this will happen. The behavior board's sort of doing that, but it's written up and you're not saying it. So yeah, I hope I answered that question properly. I hope that's what you meant. Okay, this is Courtney. I've been working on not yelling and doing a lot better. My son's response to me yelling the other day was, "You're so weird, LOL," snapped me right out of it. Someone just said on a live, I think they were on Facebook just tonight, and they said that when they're angry, rather than yelling what they wanted to say, they sing it out. So they sing it. I've actually heard, I had a client who did that. I've had a couple, but one was quite recent, and that's how they calm themselves down. I actually think I recommended that once. I don't know if it was that client, but I think I recommended that once. And I said, you can whisper or sing, or, like just change how you present whatever you were going to yell. So, but yeah, if it works, do it. Okay, very good question. I'm glad you asked that because it comes up a lot. Hope__unknown. For my daughter, she's 10. Most of her bad behavior is attitude. Attitude is not bad behavior. It's just attitude. I know this is a sign she doesn't respect me as a leader. Good for you. Should I give a consequence for negative language? The only things that you give consequences for that come out of their mouth is name calling and bad words. The attitude, you have to earn that. Like, it goes away. Their bad attitude toward you goes away organically once you set yourself up as a leader. Work on your leadership. And then within 3 to 6 months at that age, if you're consistently a good leader and accountable and following through with all this stuff, the attitude will drop away. If you look up to someone in your life, even as an adult, if you look up to someone like, I don't know, your boss or a parent or a grandparent, and if they make you feel good, which is what you should be doing with your kids, you don't want them to ever feel bad about themselves. They can be mad, but you don't want them to feel bad. So if you make your kids feel good about themselves by making them accountable, following through, being accountable yourself, they will look up to you. And if you look up to someone, and even as an adult, you look at, how do you treat that person? If you look up to someone who makes you feel good and you admire them, you don't have an attitude, right? You treat them really well. That's what happens. Once you're a leader for your children, you'll see the shift. You got to work for that, though. It takes time. Once you've developed the leadership skills, but you have to do them consistently. 3 to 6 weeks when they're little. As they get older, 3 to 6 months. Depends, right? How consistent you are. And then it's cemented. The bad attitude just goes away. Okay, good rules for moms. Okay, because you said you really wanted, this is Maddie Sickle Photography. You really want your son to hold you accountable, but you don't yell. So, there's lots of other things you can do. If you use an angry tone, maybe you could put that down. He might not be old enough, you didn't put the age, he might not be old enough to understand that, but you call yourself out if you use an angry tone. You should never show anger, frustration, or disappointment as a leader, because that's not what leaders do. Think about it. Leaders are calm. So anyway, well, not when you're playing with kids, you can be wild and crazy, but when you're disciplining or dealing with difficult stuff, you stay calm. Anyway, so a rule could be you have to play hide and seek for 10 minutes every single day. That could be your rule. Every single day you have to play hide and seek for 10 minutes. And then you want to break the rule to show them how it's done, this whole behavior board. So what you do is you fudge it. You just play for 8 minutes. You say, I'm going to go get the phone or do something. Then you come back and say, I messed up. I didn't play for 10 minutes. The alarm hadn't gone yet. So now I get a consequence. So yeah, it can be doing something fun with them can be your rule. And it's usually something that you don't normally do. Like it could be hide and seek or something, I don't know, TikTok dance, whatever. 2-year-old daughter began to refuse, so they're starting to say no. It's really common. They don't know the word no, but when they discover it, they often really like to use it. So, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But what you do is it goes something like this. So you say, okay, we're going to get in the car. No, you pick them up and put them in the car. If you say, okay, we're going to go have dinner now, and they say no, pick them up, put them in the high chair. You follow up their resistance with action. So, okay, time to go to bed. No, you pick them up and put them in bed. You see, you just make it happen anyway. But you only do that with the big stuff. You don't do it with everything. Okay, time to clean up your toys. You don't force a 2-year-old to do a chore, right? You don't force them to pick up toys. You can force them to get into the car, force them to get into bed, right? But you don't force them to do something, right? So yeah, you don't force chores upon a 2-year-old. A lot of parents get that mixed up. They throw that into that whole idea, but you can't. I won't go on about that too much, but what I did with my kids, my methods were quite different when I was raising my kids. I don't discuss it a lot because I would never use a behavior board, and I use a lot of sarcasm and humor, and it's just my personal style, okay? And but when I'm teaching all this stuff, I teach what helps the majority of parents. It's quite different because I was already a leader. So I got that cemented really early on. But if you aren't, you have to use different methods, right, to get there. So where was I going with that? Oh, I know. What I was going to say was I never really told my kids what to do. I would just say something like this. Okay, we're going now. If they'd said no, I literally would have picked them up and just carried them out. I wouldn't have said another word though. I wouldn't have said, but we have to go. But I wouldn't have got into that. I follow it up with action right away. But I'm ready for it. If I think they're going to say no, I'm ready to pick them up. I'm sort of I'm prepared for it. Okay. So, and your kids, probably if they're going to say no or not. Another method that I used was, and this is something that I do talk about it, but not a great deal because you've got bad behavior to deal with potentially. But if I wanted my kids to do something, I would wait until they asked for something. Like they might say, can we go in the pool? And I would say, sure you can, as soon as you put your toys away. I call it the as soon as method. Can we have a snack? Of course you can, as soon as you make your bed. So they just learned, and it literally got to this point that they wouldn't even ask for anything until they knew they'd done what they needed to do. So they would literally if I saw my kids going like this and putting toys away, I knew they were going to ask for a snack. You see? So they just learned, you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. They learned that self-discipline. They learned that from about 2 years old. It wasn't always perfect, but they were starting to clue into that. So of course you can have that as soon as you've done that, you see? So I was never telling them what to do. So therefore there was no resistance, right? I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not even going to read that. Okay, good question here. 2-year-old son, when he throws toys, I say no and put the toy away where he could see it. Good. But I never know when I should give him the toy back. When he's calmed down, usually you can give it back. Depends on the age too. Like if they're older, I might leave it up there longer. But once he's calmed down and lost interest, I wouldn't hand it back to him. I would just sort of put it back, but I wouldn't make a production out of it. It would just end up going back in the toy box or whatever. My toddler chooses to starve if I do the as soon as method. Well, then don't do it, right? You got to meet their needs. You can't have a starving 2-year-old, so just don't do it. I got other methods too. Okay, now I'm going to move over to TikTok now. If you want to join me over there, it's BratBusters Parenting. If not, check out my website. It's BratBusters.com. You can get my free behavior board, my courses. I've got one for toddlers, one for older kids. You can look into private coaching if you want to work one-on-one with me. I'm sorry, it's a huge wait list right now. I will get to it in the next few months, whenever, hopefully. Anyway, or you can look into the podcast. And it's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. My daughter and I work together. We do the podcast together. She kind of runs the show. She's in charge of all the marketing and all the planning in the business. And so we have a lot of fun doing the podcast together. We're answering your questions on there. And there's some other stories thrown in. Yesterday, we got massive giggles going. I'm usually the dumb one. I'm usually the one who says stupid things. I'm always in trouble because I have no filter. She's very filtered. She's very cautious in whatever she says. She actually said something really stupid yesterday. We just lost it. It's so not her. That's usually me. So we have a lot of fun doing the podcast, but our main goal is to pass on information that you can use, right? Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'm hopping over to TikTok now. Happy parenting. Sorry, YouTube. It takes forever to do this. Instagram changed how you get onto a live. It's so frustrating. It took me ages to figure it out. Anytime technology changes, I freak out because I'm old, right? Okay, I'm going to be 65 soon. Wow. 65. I feel 65, but wisdom-wise, experience-wise, but I love my 60s. Okay, I'm just waiting for people to turn up. I kind of take a break at this point because my voice starts to go. Oh, good question here. I'm going to answer that after I introduce myself here. I'm just waiting for people to turn up on TikTok. Oh, good. Nails and tails. Perfect. Because they said your videos have helped me so much with parenting. Thank you. You're very welcome. That's why most of what we do is free content, right? So, but yeah, we love it. All of our videos, my daughter takes from our podcast now. So I never have to film. Oh, I do. I film 15 a week. I will film that she asked me to do. I think they're just shorts. So that's, other than that, all of our videos are taken from the podcast now, which makes my job a lot easier. That's my daughter. She's so good at organizing all that stuff. And she knows the business. She knows the parent, much because she's my kid. So imagine that. Imagine working with your kid. How lucky, eh? Okay, so I'm going to introduce myself. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you check out my website, it's BratBusters.com. You can get my free behavior board when you join the newsletter. It's right at the top of the website. And or you can look into the boot camp courses. I have one for toddlers, one for older kids. If you're interested in that, or if you want to work with me one-on-one, I do have a huge wait list right now, but I will get to it eventually. And then you can also look into the podcast. It's called BratBusters Parenting Podcast. It's on all the platforms, and you can see it on YouTube if you want to watch it. We film ourselves while we do it, and then we put it on YouTube. Anyway, let's get going with your questions. And I want to read this one from Deanna on YouTube, because whenever I do a live, I'm also on YouTube. That's where all my lives are saved. Okay, so this is Deanna. Toddler knows if I stand up, I'm taking action. So he'll often ignore me at first, instruction, and as soon as I stand up, he listens. Do I still follow through or let him complete the task? Well, I don't like that. It's almost like a threat. Yeah, I don't want to answer it because I don't know his age. And I don't know. And then you said, do I still follow through? And I don't quite know what you mean by follow through. But I just don't. My gut reaction is no, I wouldn't do it. Because if you say something, as soon as you stand up and they do it, that's a threat. So I don't like threats. But I don't know if what he did or didn't do is something that requires a consequence. I'm not sure. Okay. Okay, deaf teacher. Most of my kids have some hearing, but no language. How do I handle tantrums from no language? That would be coaching, and I don't teach teachers. I only teach parenting. So that would be coaching. I'd have to figure it out through coaching. Sorry about that. But yeah, I really can't help you because that would be a coaching issue. That's more of a specialty kind of thing. And plus teaching is different. I don't teach teaching, very different from parenting. A lot of my clients are teachers, and some stuff does cross over. Like I love systems, routines, structure. A lot of that I use in a home, and it's great at school too, obviously. But a lot of stuff doesn't cross over at all. Like a reward chart for good behavior. Great at school, wonderful. That's a business. Total disaster at home. Disaster. Never use a reward chart for good behavior. Total disaster. But as a teacher, it works great in a classroom. Okay, I was going to answer a question somewhere. Now, I said I was going to answer it, and I didn't. I got to, well, because so many other things have come in now. Do you give different advice if the child has ADHD? No, that's where I learned all this. I've worked with hundreds of kids with ADHD. My kids didn't teach me any of this, right? Because they were easy, and I already knew how to be a leader. It was all the kids I worked with who were more challenging. I can't find that question. Someone asked a really good question at the top of the TikTok. I've lost it now. Sorry about that. Anyway, I don't remember what it was about even. This one I want to address. It's just from Kathleen. If I remove him from the situation, that's sad and makes me the bad guy and more so annoying. No, removing them from the situation doesn't make you the bad guy. It makes you the good guy for teaching them accountability, to teach them how to be good. Right? You don't just stop them from being bad. You want to teach them how to be good. That's what you're doing here. You're teaching them to take control of themselves. You have to do it initially. So it's not mean. None of this is mean. Oh, thanks for when you said you guys are awesome. You're talking about me and my daughter. She's very, very humble. She doesn't take compliments. She's a super hard worker. She's such a lovely kid. Like I've just lucked out with both my kids. And but yeah, we're getting into a rhythm with the podcast. She doesn't like being in front of the camera. It's not her thing. She loves the behind the scenes, but she wanted to start this podcast. She says, Mom, we got to do a podcast and we should do it together. I was shocked that she agreed to be in front of the camera. Yeah, because she likes behind the scenes more, but yeah, we're having a blast with it. And I just want to say, if you are on that coaching wait list, I feel like we should shut it down. We've done that before. But I don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. But anyway, yeah, I don't want to say how many, but there's a lot on there. Sometimes when I do come to them and I say there's a spot open, they'll move on. They've already moved on to the course and got some luck with that. So they've kind of given up on coaching sort of thing. So, what was I going to say about that? Oh, shoot. What was I going to say about that? I forgot. I did have a point. But yeah, if you have to just listen to the podcast, I think the course and the podcast are really good. They're more in depth. A lot of people who hire me for coaching also have the course sort of as reference material anyway, especially the 3 to 12-year-old one. But yeah, the podcast has lots of information in there. So don't just say, well, don't just sit around waiting for me to get to you, because it might take months, right? So, but yeah, listen to the podcast. We're really proud of the stuff we put out there. The podcast goes into really in-depth answers, more so than the live, right? And we do 2 a week now. So yeah, can't find the charts. If you go to BratBusters.com, it's the black line at the very top. You'll see it. There's a button. The only reason I never look on my website, but someone asked me that a while ago. I actually looked on my daughter does all it. Yeah, it's the very top. and there's a blue button that says Get Access. Click on that, follow the link. You have to join the newsletter, because did you know if someone asks for something, you're not allowed to send it out without them giving permission. It's illegal as a business to just collect emails and send stuff out. They have to agree. There's all sorts of legalities behind that. So you have to join the newsletter, and then you'll get the free behavior board. I'm only going to read this because I'm going to tell you something. It's not necessarily in regard to this necessarily, but this is Parker. A friend works retail. She is sick of parents giving into tantrums while at a convenience store. Okay, when I'm out and about and I see stuff, right, parents making mistakes and all that, it doesn't bother me at all, because I figure they're doing the best they know how, right? I never judge them unless they're doing something awful to their kids, obviously. But I always kind of feel for them because they're doing the best they know how, right? It is annoying. I get it. If you got kids screaming and you're trying to shop, I get it. But I always sort of feel for them. Everyone's doing the best they know how, right? One thing I do though is I don't do this much anymore, but because I get recognized a lot, so I don't want anyone to know I'm following them. But in a supermarket, whenever I see someone allowing a toddler to help, I used to do this more. And what happens is you allow a toddler, they're in the shopping cart, which they should be, right? You don't let them walk around, because they don't understand exceptions. When you want them in there, they're having a bad day, they won't go in. So always, if you go shopping, always make sure they're in the cart. I've got a whole section on that in my boot camp course it's called Supermarket Tantrums, How to Avoid Them. Anyway, so what they'll do is they'll allow the kid to help. They'll give the toddler here's the paper towels. You can put them in the back. Then that kid, if they are so inclined to have tantrums, they don't understand when you get in the pickle aisle, why they can't throw a big jar of pickles in the back, and they'll have a tantrum. They do not understand exceptions. Toddlers, and a toddler is 16 to 35 months. A toddler does not understand exceptions. Some of them are just easygoing and it won't bother them anyway. But the ones who aren't, who are inclined to have tantrums, you want to be 100% consistent. You never let them help unless you want them to throw the pickle jar in the back or the eggs in the back. See what I'm saying? And then parents have a fit. They'll try and reason with them. Well, these might break, and the kid doesn't understand. They don't understand the difference between throwing paper towels in the back and throwing a jar of pickles in the back. So yeah, think that through. It sort of will give you some clues into toddlers and why consistency is so important. They can't reason things out like you expect them to sometimes. Yes, always be in control. You can only control yourself. So that's why you need to be in control of yourself, because that's all you can control. You can't control someone else. You want your children to learn how to control themselves. We're not going for obedient soldiers who listen to what you say. That's not what I do at all. Okay. I raise kids who have high self-esteem, they're problem solvers, and they make good choices because they know if they make a bad one, I'm on top of it. I'm right there. I'm saying, okay, so here's a consequence for that choice you made, right? You want them to have pride. They don't have pride if they're just listening to your orders, if they're just obeying you. That's ridiculous. You don't want that. That won't take you into the teen years at all. At all. Teens are my favorite age. They're my specialty. It's my absolute favorite age. This method will take you through the teen years. It's that leadership is you give respect to get it, right? Actually, I'll read out. I haven't been reading any of my stuff out. I don't just like to talk about discipline. I like to talk about connection too. And connection is more important than discipline by far. And if you're not connected, none of this discipline works. What I mean by connection is playing with them. Their love language is fun. Teenagers, humor, time with them. You're respecting their space too, because they don't always want to be hanging out with mom and dad. Okay, I'm going to read my top 5 tips for parenting teenagers. Number 1, listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with, or they will shut you out. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway, okay? Number 2, negotiate as much as possible with teenagers. It goes something like this. Hey, I want your dishes in the dishwasher from now on. What do you want from me? Reciprocity, mutual respect, right? If you get good at this and they respect you, they're not going to say something ridiculous. They're not going to say, just leave me alone. they're going to come out with something that you might learn something about yourself. If you're not learning more about yourself and growing as an individual and becoming a better person as a result of parenting, you're doing it wrong. Okay. Parenting is a real self-discovery journey if you're doing it right, because your kids will tell you where you're messing up. Just got to learn to listen to them. Okay. Number 3, don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. If they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, just say, well, that was stupid. Do you want to hear what I did when I was your age? And laugh it off. In other words, it's okay to make mistakes, right? Just like you did, just like you do. Okay, number 4, don't leverage the good times to discuss the bad times. A lot of parents do this. I'll teach them how to connect with their teenager, and then they want to discuss all the ways they've disappointed them over the last 3 or 4 years. Huge mistake. And then they can't figure out why their teenager tells them to F off and leaves the room. Like, they can't put that together. So yeah, when do you discuss the bad times with your teenagers? Never. What's the point? It's just shaming, blaming, bullying. There's no point. You deal with bad behavior, but you don't discuss it. It's ridiculous. And number 5, you can be a right fighter or you can be happy. If you are going to argue with a teenager, remember, they're going to die on any hill. Even if they know they're wrong, they're going to die on that hill. Don't go with them. Just say, I'll tell you what, let's just talk about it later. Do not say, let's talk about it later when you've calmed down. That's an accelerator. It's an insult. But just say, let's just forget it, or let's just talk about it later. So you can be a right fighter or you can be happy. That can be said for any adult relationship, really, and teenagers. Okay, you said 18-month-old is screaming crazy out of nowhere, big screams. I don't know what's going on at the time, so I can't answer that. But yeah, they will sometimes do that, but you can't show that it upsets you. What you can do, though, is if they do it continuously, you can just go, ooh, like that's loud, and cover your ears and wander off. They don't like that. They want your attention. So, but you can let them know, ooh, they can wander off, but don't say, don't scream. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever. Just dropping in to say woo. Oh, woo, back. Okay. Woo. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I hate this question, but I'm going to read it out because I don't have a good answer. But I want to tell you why I don't. Carla Rodriguez, any tips on stopping thumb sucking for a 2-year-old? Nope. That's a tough one. But what I would try, I do have some ideas, but it might not work. The bitters and all that stuff to put on their thumb, I've never heard of that working. And you can't get rid of the thumbs. Like, you can get rid of a dummy or a soother or a pacifier, but you can't throw their thumbs in the garbage, right? So one thing that I suggest with my clients who have that issue is give them something else to do. So whenever they're sucking their thumb, you can say, okay, here's your sippy, give them a new sippy cup, something else to put in their mouth. So it's usually like something to drink, just water. So you say, oh, and get them like those funny straws or something that is exciting. So every time they go to suck their thumb, say, okay, let's get your thumb out of your mouth. Here's a drink. You can give that a go. Sometimes it works, but that's a hard habit to get rid of. They usually outgrow it, though. I knew someone I heard of that he, as an adult, didn't have any thumbprints because he sucked his thumb like when he was really old in his sleep. So I think he was like 10 or 12 and he was still sucking his thumb. I don't know. Anyway, he had no thumbprints. He would have been a great criminal. I don't know why I'm getting fireworks on YouTube. I think because I put my thumbs up. Anyway, but yeah, he had no thumbprints. So he was a criminal in the making. What to do with 3-year-old to stop throwing toys? Well, if they're throwing toys, you have to intervene so no one gets hurt. You just take it and you say, okay, so on the behavior board, the rule should be no throwing things in the house. So you say, okay, so let's go to the board. So you have to stop the scene, stop damage being done. And then you say, okay, let's go to the board. Then when you go to the board, you say, okay, now the rule was no throwing toys. Here's your consequence. You do something afterwards. You don't try and prevent it. Well, you do. The board sort of is helping you with that. I would never use a behavior board ever. It's a teaching tool. I don't want kids looking at a board. I want them looking right at me. But it takes some of the onus off of you, and it helps to get you organized, gives you a plan, and you're only focused on one behavior per week. And you only do 3 boards, and then you move on to other things, which is the course or coaching or whatever. But yeah, 3 behavior boards. and by 3 weeks. So that's what's teaching them. That is the threat, sort of. That's the rules. Like you look in classrooms, schools, they have rules written down. They have lists of things to do. And kids like that. They like to see a plan. It makes you look like you know what you're doing. You have a plan. You can stay calm, because you've got a plan. You know what to do. I always say, whenever someone hires me, I say, you always want to give all the power to me, the behavior board, and money. So what you do is you say to your kids, we hired a parenting coach, a teacher. They understand teachers have authority. So you're giving all this power. I will eventually transfer that power over to the parents. But initially it takes some of the fear away, or some of the it's landing the power and the meanness on me, the money that they've spent. Because with older kids, say, and she cost a lot of money. They always say how much. It gives it more power, more clout. Okay. And the board. So you give the board the money that you've spent on me and me. Give it all power in coaching, right? So and that's in coaching. But if you're not hiring me for coaching, give it to the board and say, look, well, the board says this. That's the board. I've introduced it. So you see, you're taking some of the onus off of you. Whereas I don't want that. I want it all on me. But when you're learning how to do this, that's the training wheels, is the behavior board. You're learning how to do this. You're learning how to get organized, how to follow through. You're also on there because you have to be accountable. Leaders are accountable, right? It's not a one-way street at all. Not at all. My 2-year-old slaps himself in the head and throws himself on the ground when he gets mad. Yeah, a lot of kids do that. Just physically restrain him from hurting himself or damaging property or hurting someone else. You just hold him just for a minute or so and then let him go. If he starts up again, grab him again. Just prevent him from damage, right? So, but don't look at him or talk to him when he's having a tantrum, ever. But you're just keeping him safe, that's all. Yeah, they'll do crazy stuff. They'll bang their head on the table. They'll do anything they don't understand concussions and that. So, but yeah, they'll do silly stuff. So but you got to prevent that. You dive in fast and stop them from continuing to do that. But I often recommend, if you've got one who continually bangs his head on the floor, drops to the ground and throws his head back, that is scary, right? So you can buy these, and I can't recommend any because I don't know how safe they are, but you want to supervise them. Get a foam helmet. They're meant for kids who have disabilities that do tend to bang their heads on walls and that. So you can get just this really foam helmet, but supervise them because it's got a chin strap. They hate that thing. So you say, oh, you're hurting your head. Put the helmet on them, and then they hate it. They'll often stop banging their heads just because if you pull out that helmet, they'll stop. They'll put it together. Yeah, if they slap themselves on the head, just say no and just hold his hands, right? And just for a minute or so, then let go if he starts up again. They're doing it to get at you. It's funny. They beat themselves up to upset you. That's crazy. When does the board begin? It begins at the age of 3. That's when they can develop a sense of reasoning. Doesn't mean they've got it yet, but they can all learn how to reason. Some of them are a little bit younger, but not much younger than that. They have the ability to stop and think before they act. And they're going to learn this by you pulling out that board. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you don't have to say no, or hardly ever. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. I've got lots of videos on that. You can just Google BratBusters toy rotation. Number 3, you connect with toddlers in their world, not your world. You don't take them to the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. They look at you differently. A toddler is 16 to 35 months, the way I frame it. Number 4, you discipline toddlers in their world also. A lot of parents want to talk things through with a toddler. You don't do that. It's all about actions. So you need consistent corrective actions to correct bad behavior. If they do something naughty, you remove them from the fun or remove fun from them. But it's got to be fast. They got to connect it. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. They're in the discovery phase. They might even go like this and smear poop on the wall. Go figure that, right? They're cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and the first year you were a potato laying on a mattress. Like, they're just forming. Whenever I'm working with someone who has older kids, like in coaching, and if they have a toddler, Sometimes I'll say to them, do you want to talk about the toddler? And they'll almost always say, nah, toddlers are just crazy, because they've already lived through it, right? They're just forming. Think about it. Think about it. 2 years is nothing to be in the world. Plus, they've been in the world with not a real formed brain yet. Like, they're just forming, right? So really, how much can they pick up? I know my granddaughter, she's 20 months old now. The stuff, and they're just magnets. They're picking stuff up right, left, and center. But they don't know much about the world yet, right? Okay, actually, I have to get going. Yeah, I have to get going. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I used to do lives every single day. I just don't have the time anymore, but I do them as much as possible. If you want our questions answered, you can always submit them. I don't know where it's done. So just go to my website, BratBusters.com, and you can submit questions for the podcast. I do go into more in-depth answers than that. We can't answer all the questions. And if I do answer a DM from you, that's all my daughter. She does all that. And I don't know if she sees any comments. I don't know. Just, we've got like a couple million followers. It's just impossible at this point to keep up with all that. But that's why we've got all this free content, the lives, the podcast, and all the videos. So that's why we're trying to get you as much information out there as we can. Anyway, check out my website, BratBusters.com. You can get my free behavior board if you join the newsletter. It's at the very top of the website. You'll see it. It says Get Access, a big blue button. Anyway, then you can also check into the boot camp courses. I have 2 of them, one for toddlers, one for older kids. You can get on the wait list for coaching if you want to work with me. It is a big wait list, but I'll get to it eventually, hopefully. And you can also listen to the podcast, BratBusters Parenting Podcast. It's on all the platforms, and we save it to YouTube. We film ourselves doing it, my daughter and I, and you can see us do the podcast if you want. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Happy parenting. Bye now.